Pardon me, are you Aaron Burr, sir?
Yeah.
My name is Alexander. My name is Alexander, so this fits pretty well. But how's it going,
Oh
Zach?
yeah, you were Alexander.
Yes, a Hamill fan, and my name is also Alexander. So there you go. Boom, 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 boom. I'm the comparison maker here. So how are you? How are you doing?
I'm doing just all right.
Okay,
You know.
okay. But we're gonna talk about some pretty rad stuff, dog. We're gonna talk about Hamilton today.
Hamilton, yes.
Yeah, yeah.
So we should talk about our prior knowledge / experience with Hamilton, and
Yes, which is on Disney Plus. In case you live under a rock and didn't know that, I was told by a friend who has a Spotify account that every single ad break with Spotify, it was the exact same ad of Hamilton, and it like kind of soured him to it. And I was like, no, you gotta watch it. You still gotta watch it. I think I first sort of heard about Hamilton on Jeopardy, of all places. There was a category in, well, I think it was later in 2015, which is right around when the Broadway show was going on, that was about the musical, and it was all about, it was presented by Lin-Manuel Miranda. He did the video clue, and he quoted bits and pieces of the musical. There was like very brief little snippets of it shown, and I remember just thinking, that is awesome that they've made a musical about Alexander Hamilton, who is one of my favorite founding fathers, probably my favorite, simply for the fact that his first name is the same as mine.
Really.
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, that was like when I was a little kid, I thought it was awesome that there was a founding father that had the same first name as me, and I've really liked him ever since. But all that being said, so that was when I first heard about it. Fast forward a few months, and I was talking to a friend of mine who's like, the whole family was like really into musical theater and stuff. So I remember I bringing up like Hamilton seemed like really awesome, and everyone in the family was like, no, that's just like, it's like they're appealing to too much to the mainstream or something. It was like this really weird reaction. I was like, okay, that's kind of weird. But skip ahead a few more months. My friend had listened to Hamilton. I was like, you have to listen to this. This is so good. And I was like, what did I say? I knew it was going to be good, and I listened to you instead. Instead of going with my gut and actually following through and listening to it. So, yeah, I listened to the whole thing and felt totally in love with it. Tried to introduce it to as many people as I knew. I was very big in on it. 2016 was like, I listened to it so many times. And I've tried to listen to it on July 4th every year ever since, basically. And obviously every once in a while I would listen to it here or there, because it's great, and I'm a big fan. I really do like it. I entered in competitions to try to like donation incentives to like donate to this organization, and you could get a trip to New York to see Hamilton and meet Lin-Manuel Miranda, and I did that a few times. So yeah, I'm a fan for sure. Do
you have much experience with Broadway in general?
I do like Broadway quite a lot. It's actually something that I don't often talk about. But yes, I don't want to say like I didn't really grow up really like with much musical theater, but all the Disney movies through the 90s, basically all of them were Broadway musicals that they animated, more or less. I mean, they made Broadway musicals about them later, but like all of the talent that was behind all of the music in those were all like musical theater geeks and buffs. Mm-hmm. Alan Menken, I can't remember the guy that worked with him on Beauty and the Beast and Little Mermaid, but those two guys, and then later you had. He did the music for Pocahontas. He did. I think he did the music for Wicked, I want to say. So yeah, I like musical theater. I sort of rekindled that with. There was somebody I dated for a little while who was very big into big into that, and that sort of rekindled my love of musical theater. But yeah, I mean, I used to go every once in a while. I would go with my folks, my family. There would usually every summer there would be an opera production or a musical production in the area around here, and I would usually go to one of those also.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Okay. Well,
Yeah.
I had like no prior knowledge of Hamilton. I
Okay.
was kind of impressed how much I didn't know after I watched it. I was like, all I knew was that it was a super popular Broadway musical, and then I was like, I'm sure once I start watching it, I probably have heard something here or there, but I hadn't heard a single song on it.
That's
And
amazing.
I didn't even know it was like hip hop inspired, anything like
Yes.
that. I thought it was just going to be like traditional musical. I also
Nope.
didn't know that it would necessarily be nonstop music. I thought it might just be, you know.
Yep, it's sung through pretty much the
I
whole.
did not expect that, for sure. But
Yep.
I don't really have much experience with. I've never seen any like Broadway stuff. Not much live performances in general, like, or live theater performances aside from like school stuff we would watch.
Yeah, yeah.
So very limited
You
knowledge.
saw Cats? Did you see Cats in school?
I didn't. No.
I don't. Cats was like this really. Cats was like the theater geek's worst nightmare in that period of time, because just like everything was about cats, because Andrew Lloyd Webber was like God for Broadway for the 80s and the early 90s. So Cats was like really huge. Obviously Phantom of the Opera, which like everyone's heard of that. Everyone's probably heard music from that. Yeah, so he was like God. But unfortunately, that was like much to the chagrin of people who were in theater, because it was like that's all people know, and I don't want to just keep singing Cats for the rest of my life, like. Yeah.
See, that's a movie we should have reviewed right there.
God, no.
That would be good. So, Hamilton. So
Yes.
now it's on Disney Plus, which
It is.
I know previously a lot of people had gotten their Hamilton experience through like watching animations on YouTube or just hearing the songs by themselves and not being able to actually see the performances and whatnot.
Yeah, so it was only like 300 people at a time or whatever. Everyone that could cram into I think it was larger by the time it was on Broadway, but even still, it was only like a certain amount of people every night. So it's like tickets are super expensive, and yeah, so it's like very much limits who can see it. There was a tour, I think, for a while. I don't know how. I don't remember all the logistics of that. I think that was a little bit more recent. I think some of that might have been affected by COVID. But there was a tour. There was a touring production in addition to the one that was on Broadway itself. But yeah, it was it's very, very tough to actually really. Hamill fans would like go like crazy for just like even just a little bit of footage of the production. So like there was a PBS documentary that came out that had, I think, altogether 25 to 30 minutes of footage from the musical. I don't remember the exact number, but it was so much. It was like, oh my gosh, there's so much here. Like it's like we gotta watch it, type of thing. So, and that came out 2 or 3 years ago, I think. So.
Okay.
But.
So yeah, I loved it, man.
Oh, yeah.
I've been listening to it ever since I watched it. I've just been playing it nonstop. The soundtrack.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I don't even. When going into this, I'm like, what are we going to discuss? Because it's just all good stuff.
Yeah.
It's like every single one of like the leading performers is so good.
Yes.
There wasn't like a single voice where I was like, wasn't really a fan of that, or like 90% of the songs are like all stellar too. So it's like when I'm listening to this on shuffle, it's just like I'm not really disappointed at anyone that comes up.
Yeah, there's only like a handful that are like, because they're almost just the introduction, the lead into the next song. Some of those are probably a little awkward if you're listening to it on shuffle. But yeah, I mean, I've read like a handful of like rankings of like, here's all the Hamilton songs ranked. And I'm always really sad to see like some of. I wouldn't say they're like necessarily my favorite, but they're the ones that have like a lot of like um there are a lot of like exposition and narrative and the historical stuff, and I was like, man, that's the stuff I like.
Mhm. Everything's done so well, and just
It
like
is.
the delivery is so challenging on a lot of this stuff. It's really really impressive to actually get a performance like that. Like it's hard enough to get people to do performances like that for like 15 minutes, but you have like a 3 hour movie where everybody's just on their
and
game the
and
whole time.
and they do it every night
Yeah.
and twice on Sundays, I think. So, well, they get 2 days off. They get Monday and Tuesday off, but then they're doing it all week, all the whole rest of the week, every
Mhm.
night. Or maybe it's Monday. I think it's Monday off, and then Tuesday rehearsals, and then I think it's Wednesday through Sunday.
It just
Is usually
seems
how
it
it
seems
works.
so flawless here. Like I wanted to see some mistakes of like what's going on.
No, no, that's the amazing thing about like these Broadway productions are just like that's sort of the magic of musical theater this is something that I was actually talking to a friend about is that musical theater, the beauty of musical theater is ephemeral, right? It's fleeting. It's something that's in the moment. So like
Mhm.
the fact that we have a recorded version of Hamilton and it still feels like you can watch it over and over and over again, a musical theater production, that's amazing to me. Like I sort of cheated a little bit because me and my folks watched it on July 4th. Yeah, it was on July 4th, and but it had come out the day before, so I cheated on it a little bit, and I'd watched like the first half hour or so,
Hmm.
which I think was through the Schuyler sisters, I believe. Is about the halfway point, or the 30 minute. No. Right Hand Man is the 30, right around the 30 minute mark. Um, which Chris Jackson, man, ah
Yeah.
so good.
He's so good.
Yeah. But yeah. So but I didn't feel when I was watching it again with my parents. I didn't feel like it's like it's like I already seen this. I'm like, no, this is just like so good. It's so good what they did with the filming and everything. It's so beautiful how
Yeah.
they did it.
Yeah, now I'm like, dang, I want to see more of this. I want to get more like Broadway musicals. I want to get them
Mm.
like accessible, you know?
Yeah,
That'd be great.
there are other musicals recorded. I actually saw the 2006 production of Company. It was like a taped version of it. The cool thing about that one is that the actors actually all played instruments. They all had live instruments on stage, so they actually like did the orchestra stuff, which is really fascinating.
Hmm.
And so that's a spectacular musical too. Very different tone, very different subject matter, but yeah, no, there are a lot of different recordings and productions. I don't know if I would say any of them can quite stand up to this one. I've seen
Yeah.
precious few of them, but the way that this one, from what I understand, this was basically recorded over the course of 3 performances, as well as rehearsals. So the close-up shots I think were all typically during rehearsals, and the fact that you cannot tell that that's the case
Yeah.
is amazing. Everything looks perfect. Everything is consistent. There's no like, oh, this is clearly that night and that's clearly this night, and there's nothing. You cannot tell.
That's awesome. Yeah.
Yeah,
I didn't know that.
yeah.
So before we gush about it anymore, is there any like prevailing criticisms? Because I'm curious to like what people don't like about this.
So one of the big things that people have been criticizing recently, and it's actually something that I was very like proud of his response, Lin-Manuel Miranda's response to it. One of the things that people have been criticizing is that it doesn't really do enough to it doesn't delve enough on the slavery issue. There's not enough about slavery in it, especially an important period of time. It's too lacking on, because Hamilton had it's a more complicated perspective and relationship with slavery than the musical lets on. there's actually a cut piece, a cut number from this musical. It was Cabinet Battle Number 3, in which they discuss the compromise that Benjamin Franklin had issued to Congress, which was to essentially to free the slaves. It was a way to free the slaves and ship them back to Africa. But they basically, what happened in the States at that time was like, we can't do that yet. Like it's not. It's like it's too much. It's basically the decision was made. It's too much to ask financially for the country to do at this period of time. So we're gonna have to put it off again. Like we have to put it off, and then we can discuss it at a later date. Obviously, we know what happened, and that plan never came to fruition. There's some complications. You know, the Schuylers owned slaves. Philip Schuyler was a slave owner. He actually just recently had a statue taken down in Pennsylvania, because I think he lived in upstate Pennsylvania.
Yeah.
There's evidence that Hamilton may have actually played party in purchasing some for the family. That being said, he was extremely critical of other founding fathers for owning slaves. He himself didn't actually ever own any slaves. So he, like a lot of people of the period, it's a very complicated issue. I think it's wrong. Like no, you can't say historically that like anyone was in the right for owning slaves. But I think there's a lot more nuance to the discussion than I think often give it credit for, and I think rightfully so, because you have to cover such a breadth of material in 2.5 hours of a musical. Like he couldn't really. I mean, and he's like all the criticisms completely worthy. He's like, that's totally. It's like, this is a piece of art. You can absolutely critique it. Like that's the whole point of people creating things is for you to analyze and criticize it. So, you know, I think those are worthy concerns. It didn't necessarily fit with the narrative that he was going for, but like to me, the beauty of the musical comes from, right, like the whole. I guess we're skipping right to the end, but the whole purpose of the musical is to shed light on stories that haven't been told. Right, Alexander Hamilton is a little bit more of an overshadowed figure when it comes to a lot of the other founding fathers, and kind of the whole thrust of the musical is you have this multi-ethnic cast telling the story of America's history, who are all basically just white people.
Yeah.
In essence, that's them saying, this is our story too. We need to tell the story too. But you know, the whole who lives, who dies, who tells your story it's all about the importance of shedding light on people's story, on the histories that haven't been told, and the people's stories that haven't been told. And I think that's just like one of the most beautiful messages to send out. So I think people's criticism, I think, goes along with the whole theme of the musical. Right. Mm-hmm. There's people's story that haven't been told. There's people's history that needs to be talked about more, and absolutely do that. Like I think that's totally a worthy critique. I don't know of any other real critiques of it. Personally, that's kind of what I've gathered over the last couple of weeks from people who criticize it. But before that, I had heard basically nothing about it. Like nothing. I had never heard anyone say anything negatively about it. So
yeah, right. Like I had heard, just before I had seen it, that is one thing I heard where it was like, they don't tell you everything in Hamilton. Hamilton wasn't that great of a person, really. You know, all these things where it's like they don't show all the flaws, obviously. But it's like, at least he didn't.
I'd say it's fairly unflinching in his flaws. He was kind of an asshole.
Yeah, they didn't make him seem perfect, but the whole slavery thing, yeah, there's like some gray area there. But
I mean, there's gray area with all of the founding. George Washington owned slaves.
Right.
You know,
That's
like
been a thing.
our greatest statesman. You know.
That's been a discourse that's been going around a lot recently. It's just like the founding
Yeah.
fathers are all like really have some bad stuff there. So
Yeah.
maybe we shouldn't put them that much on a pedestal. That's what the argument is, I guess. But
Hmm.
there was a similar thing with The Greatest Showman, where it's like they do
Hmm.
like kind of romanticize the main character, whereas he also had a thing in actual history where he like used a slave as part of his act or something. It's
Hmm.
like you're obviously not going to show that, and yeah, maybe he wouldn't look too good if you knew the whole truth. But
Right.
I'm generally of the opinion that like you can take some liberties there if you just want to tell a good story, and like Alexander Hamilton overall still has an inspiring story.
Yeah.
And it's so yeah, it's
Yeah.
tough, but
And it is tough, but it's like you have to try to have a through plot to your thing, and you have to stick to a time. It's already long, and you can't meander that much. I mean, it would be nice. It would be nice if the three people that sort of went to him in his study and were like, "Hey, man, we've noticed that there's money that's gone missing. What's all this money that you're paying?" Those Aaron Burr, Madison, and Jefferson were not the three people that went to him. It was actually James Monroe, who was the fifth president of the United States. It was one of the main people that did that, and a couple of other people I don't remember. But James Monroe was the chief instigator there. He was like, "What's going on?" And he was just like, "Yes, sorry, I've been like paying this guy because I was sleeping with his wife."
yeah. So
Yeah.
the one thing I did appreciate about it overall was that they did like with the creative liberties they took,
Mhm.
it really helped the story. Like where they just kind of uh, the interactions between people like Washington and Hamilton, where it's like you obviously have no recorded history of these conversations they actually had,
Right.
but it's like it makes sense with the context and it makes it like
Yeah.
a better
Wa-
story overall.
Washington was clearly extremely fond of Alexander Hamilton, um, just based on like the different things that happened through their interactions in historical record. Um, so it's nice. Their relationship is one of my favorites in the whole thing.
Because it's like when you go back that far in history, it's not like you right now where you could have actual recorded film of people interacting.
Right.
So
Right.
you get to take like one little point where it's like these two figures are connected in some way, and then you can expand on that and make these nice conversations. With
Yeah,
the
all you
agreed
have a lot of
numbers.
all you have a lot of time is letters, and what was being printed in paper,
And
basically. So,
they did do a good job of working in a lot of that too.
mhm,
Where it's like a lot of the written pieces were incorporated into
mhm.
the story. But I really, one of the biggest things I appreciate is how they told Aaron Burr's story in this too.
Yeah,
Because it was a
it's
really
very
unique take. Because obviously it's easy to just make him the bad guy, plain and simple.
yeah, but he has a complicated story too. So,
And there's even
it's
gray area when it comes down to the actual duel historically.
there is yes,
Like
yes.
did Hamilton actually intend to shoot, or was it like after he got shot he shot off a bullet, that kind of thing? And
Yeah.
like I don't think he necessarily rose his gun to the sky like that clearly. It's gonna
Not clearly above, but there's conflict, and the thing
Yeah.
this is the great. There's a lot of conflicting accounts as to exactly what happened. So that's what makes the history kind of fun in that.
yeah,
But
but it's so.
I mean,
so
on
good.
his deathbed, he did say, "I hate dueling." Aaron Burr is also historically
He said,
stated to have hate dueling too.
Mhm.
So both of them.
And they do kind of
But
envelop.
there's
From what I looked into, they do kind of like exaggerate the like Aaron Burr's kind of regret that they kind of seem to show. Like he only vaguely,
the statement "the world was wide enough for Hamilton and me"
yeah,
was something he had actually said, but it's unclear whether or not he was being sarcastic or not.
yeah, yeah. Because I looked into because I knew about all the dueling and a lot of the
Mm-hmm.
Hamilton Jefferson stuff before,
Mm-hmm.
but I looked into some of the stuff afterwards, and it was interesting
Yeah.
because there's a lot of stuff that's the gray area, which is common
Yeah.
with this kind of history.
I have the. I've been meaning to start reading it, but I actually have the Ron Chernow book right there. Which this was basically Lin-Manuel Miranda read it and was like, "This is awesome. This guy's story is amazing."
Mm-hmm.
Um, so.
But it's a cool thing about telling real life stories like this, because like you
Mhm.
exaggerated some elements, but
Mhm.
still overall the story is pretty true to itself. But the fact that it makes such a satisfying story, it's like, oh,
Yeah.
that's a good life story actually.
The history, artistic liberties aside, the history in this is far better than I ever would have dreamed from a musical, like
Mhm.
ever. As somebody who, I studied history. We do epic rap battles of history, so we react to those. So like I I always mention I studied history. Yeah, I got a degree in it. Yeah. It's always you always have to like go into like things from a historical account. You always have to like, okay, I know this isn't going to be exactly the way it's supposed to be, like it happened, but like as long as we get some of it okay, that's great. That's cool. And this was like way better than it had any right to be. Like
Yeah.
way closer to the actual narrative than it had any right to be, which I think is awesome.
Yeah, and just the fact
yeah.
like the opening itself is really cool. How they presented me, I fought for him, me, I died for him. All the key figures.
Yeah.
But it's really cool because it's like, well, yeah, these are all true things in history, but it makes itself look like such a dramatic story that like could have just all been written.
The thing that's really cool about that is that the characters that play two different people or three different people play more than one character.
Mm-hmm.
No, 4, 5. I don't know. I'm confusing myself. Yeah, so because Daveed Diggs plays both Lafayette and Jefferson.
Mm-hmm.
I can't pronounce his name. I'm so sorry.
I can't pronounce it.
But he plays Madison and Hercules Mulligan.
He's awesome.
Who's an awesome historical figure. He's like one of America's first spies.
Yeah.
He's really cool. If people should look into him, he's an awesome figure. And then I can't remember everyone's name, but who plays Peggy and Peggy and Marie Reynolds. So like all of them, when they have those lines at the beginning, they all have like the double meanings. So like, or the guy who played John Laurens and Philip Hamilton are all like, I died for him. So because he dies twice. He doesn't die just die once. He dies twice. I fought with him takes on the double meaning because they fought with him as allies in the revolution, but then in Act 2 they fight with him because they're totally against him. They're Democratic Republicans and he's a Federalist. So I've always thought that was really cool.
That is cool. And I love the recurring uses of like the phrases, like Bursar.
Yeah,
I love that stuff.
Aaron Bursar is always
like every time he mentions Aaron Burr's name, it's always Aaron Bursar in some way.
Because there's so many cool, fun ways you can rhyme with that. Like it's always looking for what can I rhyme this with.
Dude, it comes out the gate really good. Like the first few songs are so good. Like I love the whole Aaron Burr sequence.
Yeah.
And obviously the whole intro. It's like from the gate. It's like, okay, I'm into this, and we're gonna have 3 hours of this straight. Wow. No way.
Yeah.
No way.
So and another thing so this is something that you kind of get it from the recording, but it makes it so much clearer when you see it displayed, is how Aaron Burr is the storyteller. He's the ringleader, basically. This is his story that he's telling, and it's so cool because at the end, when it's almost like the curtain's lifted and it's really been Eliza the whole time that's telling the story.
Mm-hmm.
because he sort of fades back into the background after his part's done, after his part of the history's done. It's like, no, she's actually the one that told his story. That she's actually the one that did it. It's just such a cool thing. And you don't get that really from the recording. You totally get it from watching the Disney Plus version. So that to me is like just as a through line to the whole musical is really great. I think it's so cool.
And yeah, I mean, I love the whole cast basically. You know, usually with these kinds of performances, there's always like a weak one, or there'll be a specific character where it's like when they perform, I'm like, not into it that much. But these are all solid. And I mean, it's obvious, but it is nice to note the fact that it's such a diverse cast. You know, that's such a unique take on it. Where it's like, if you wanted to do it perfectly historically accurate, you'd have a bunch of white dudes up there.
Bunch of white dudes and practically no women at all. Yeah. But like women are playing a lot of the, and the other thing that's wonderful about seeing it staged is all of the background choreography is beautiful. It's so cool to see all that, and there's like a lot of women in that, and it's so great. It's so great, and
it's on point. And the turntable, the
turntable's so cool. Yeah,
that's such a good, particularly the reverse sequence. You know, that's so good.
Oh, Rewind! Oh my gosh, yes. Yeah, the Satisfied is the song, but so cool. Another one of my favorite, I was talking with another friend of mine, we kind of both agreed that probably our favorite use of how they did the turntable was actually during I don't remember the song name, it's either Hurricane or Wrote My Way Out. Because it's like everything's turmoil and it's in the eye of the hurricane, it's quiet, and it's just like everything just stops, and I'm like, that is so cool.
It's good. Yeah. What else needs to be said?
I know. There's like too many.
It is largely hip hop, but there's so many different styles they incorporate into it. You know, obviously it's not just all spoken word, because you have some great singers in there. You know. And I like the little rap battle sequences too. Those are fun.
Oh, okay. So this is one really great thing. There are so many references for every audience that you could think of. There's theater geek references. There's hip hop references that I found out through like the companion book. Because they have like the whole all the lyrics and everything, and then writings from Lin-Manuel Miranda about it, and then it's also in the credits of, if you go through like the physical credits of the musical, it'll be like reference to 10 Correct Commandments by so and so.
Yeah, that was one of the things that I found like afterwards.
And then
I did not know that.
Like in Cabinet Battle 2. If you don't know, now you know. That's a hip hop reference or a rap reference. So, there's all kinds of stuff like that. It's so cool. I love there's a 1776 reference, which is a musical. Sit Down, John is a song in 1776. So sit down, John, you fat motherfucker. Which is
Jonathan Groff, by the way.
Oh yeah, we talked about him. Yeah, Groff Sauce, I think, is what he's known as by his fans.
So good.
Yeah, as King George III. All the puns and things in that too, about references to him going mad. Just so fun. Mm-hmm. It's a breakup song. It's a breakup song about America.
Yeah. I just love, so many of the songs are just so good by themselves, you know. And then given the context, they're made so much better. The one last time, it's so good.
Oh, I cry every time.
It's like, so that's good. One of the best things that George Washington did was stepping down, you know. Yeah. He could have been up there for 5 terms, you know.
It's compared to, there was an emperor in Rome called Cincinnatus. Cincinnatus was basically given all the power of the empire. It was I think it was during the Republic era of Rome, where Rome was still a republic, but it was a time of war, and during that time, the Senate was permitted to elect a dictator in order to take command of the army and rule, basically, in order to just control the army and make sure that everything stayed cool and that they won. So they would choose somebody to do that. But Cincinnatus stepped down after the war. He didn't seize power. He didn't hold on to the power. He stepped down and just went back to his farm. And that's exactly what George Washington did. And it's a cool, like, George Washington. There's art of George Washington as Cincinnatus because he did exactly what what happened with that. So
it's
now
like you got to give credit to that, because just the fact that's like one of the hardest things to do. And there's the commentary they add on where it's like Hamilton's like, excuse me. Like the idea that's like so baffling, and then King George is like, I didn't even know that was that was an option.
Yeah.
Like,
well, Hamilton actually was somebody who kind of was like almost like he was accused of kind of being a monarchist, because he was like, we should elect like a king, and also Senate positions should be like inherited, like you should like get them through your family. So he was like, he kind of had some out there positions for forming a new country, where it was like, he's a monarchist.
It's like it shed some light on the fact of like the founding fathers. They're really flawed people, obviously, but there's something special about how everything came together. To where it's like you look at our political system now, it's so sad because that spark is not really there.
They're broken people that were fighting for something that they knew would outlive them, something that was greater than them, something that could be better than they were. It's an ideal to strive for.
And it's like you see like politicking and agendas, but it's like so different to now, where it's like all agendas.
Yeah.
It's like
it's kind of
there's not like a greater goal that we're going for. We're not united nearly as much. It's like the fact that Alexander Hamilton was like, I endorse Jefferson because at least he has beliefs and you have none.
Yeah.
Like, you don't do that. And you wouldn't do that now because, like, no, he has the opposite beliefs, so obviously I don't want him.
Yeah.
It's just like anyone who's on your side kind of thing.
Yeah, yeah. And, well, it's interesting you say that, though, because The Room Where It Happens is totally about how kind of skeevy politics, how skeevy and how...
That's true.
And how, ultimately it's probably a good thing we don't always know how it happens. It would be nice to, probably, just for the sake of clarity, but deals are made and things happen, but no one really knows how it happens, because no one else is in the room where it happens.
But Aaron Burr just wanted to be in the room where it happens.
Yeah, he did.
So
yeah,
that's why he was fake. He would just appeal to every voter. Like his whole thing was, do not voice your opinion. It'll turn people away. Talk
less, smile more.
Yeah.
Don't let them know what you're against or what you're for.
The fact that he wasn't ultimately awarded, it's a good satisfying conclusion at least. But he did get the last shot, so.
Though it's interesting because I don't remember the exact circumstances of it, but I think whoever he ended up marrying, she filed for divorce, and the lawyer of that divorce was Alexander Hamilton Jr. So he ultimately did get the last laugh in the end. His legacy did live on.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah.
Duels were fucked, man.
Yeah, they were. I mean,
I like the point that they were like, most duels end. What was the line?
Most disputes die and no one shoots.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's like, but not every time these did end in shots.
Yeah. That's the thing. It was such a stupid honor system that it was outmoded. It had become passé. It especially came passé when the vice president of the United States murdered an elder statesman, That's especially when it was like, okay, this needs to go. This old fashioned whatever this is. Is very passe after that. Duels were already starting to become rare, but yeah,
It's like
for sure.
it's like in Game of Thrones. There's trial by combat, which is literally like if you're about to be put on trial for something, it's like,
Hmm.
no, I want to just fight for it instead. I'll fight. Like you give me someone to represent the state or whoever is opposing you, and you fight them. And if you win, it's like, oh, you're not guilty. It's like, oh, okay, cool.
Okay, neat,
It's just not logical.
bruh. I can take you though.
The fact that they had all these rules, and it's like there's such honor, but then if you lose, you're just dead. It's like,
Yeah.
is it really worth it, man? Just to, resolve a dispute, you can't resolve the dispute, and you have to.
Well,
just shoot.
not necessarily dead, because I don't think Charles Lee died from his
Right.
duel, but
Yeah.
he was injured pretty badly. Okay, well, famous or favorite, favorite. What are your favorite? I know you've already been saying you kind of have a hard time, like, because it's all so good. But if you could pick maybe one, maybe two
Favorite songs or
favorite songs, yeah,
that's tough. There's like 40 something songs.
40 something like that. Yeah, I don't remember exactly. I think it's 46, 47, something like
I'm
that.
trying to. I've been listening to it a lot, honestly, but
Yeah,
it's been like one or 2 days that I've been listening. So,
Mm.
so I'm trying to even remember like what's the name of each one. But
well, I think my favorite song is "Wait for It."
wait for it, wait for
Yeah.
it.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's so good.
I've always loved that song so much.
Love that one.
Yeah, that's really good. A Room Where It Happens is another really big one for me. I think that's just such a that to me is like, especially seeing the Disney Plus production. That's like the showstopper right there. It's so like everything is just popping in that one. Like
Yeah,
the whole cast or the whole ensembles involved. There's huge dance sections of the whole song. It's developing Hamilton's maturing as a statesman. It's detailing Burr's understanding that I need to actually do something in order to, like, I know what I finally know what I want. It's developing the relationship between Jefferson and Hamilton. It's doing like all these things at once, and on top of that, it's just a really good song and just really enjoyable to watch.
hmm
It's awesome, and I've always really liked it. Watching it on Disney Plus, I think really made me realize like how important that song is to the whole musical,
Yeah.
or at least especially Act Two.
I do really like this. I really like One Last Time.
Mm.
I do like the King George ones. Those are fun. Satisfied, right? That's the name of it.
Yep, the Angelica. Yep.
That's really good. And like I said, the first two even Alexander Hamilton and the Aaron
And
Burr.
Bursar.
Those
Yeah.
are so good. But they're all really good. Like I don't think any of them are bad. So
Yeah, my shot. I've always liked that one a lot too.
yeah.
Um, Another thing that I really like is the how they keep coming back to and especially how it's the last line that he says in the musical is "raise a glass to freedom." It's just like that hits you right in the heart. Just like right back to him thinking about like how this all started, basically. And it was like, ugh, so good. Yeah, no, I mean, there's just like the whole music as a whole. It demands to be seen. It really should be seen by as many people as possible, and that's why I'm so glad that it's available to be seen. I would love
Yeah.
still. That being said, the thing that I like is that it's the original Broadway cast. That's the production of. That's what the recordings of. But that still doesn't mean that I still don't want to see it. That's like, oh, that's enough. I don't need to see it now. It's like, no, I would really still like to very much see it live. It's not going to be the exact same, obviously, because you have a whole different cast. But
No, I want to see the original cast. Take me
that
back.
it'd be great. But I mean, they're all doing other stuff now. So yeah,
I just can't imagine anyone living up to these people though, because they're all like uniquely talented.
They are, yeah. I think I was hearing about like how they all sort of got cast and everything like that. And yeah, because Daveed Diggs is in like a hip hop group out in San Francisco. I want to say he's in California somewhere. I don't remember exactly where, but he was just kind of like he was like asked about the idea or pitched the idea, and he was kind of like eh. But then he actually like saw like a reading of it, and he was like, okay, yeah, this is going to be great. Yeah. So, and then Christopher Jackson, I think he was in The Heights, and I think Lin-Manuel Miranda like mentioned something to him about being in a musical, but they didn't really they didn't really ask it totally. And then all of a sudden, I don't remember if he said in an interview where it was his agent or somebody was like, "Hey, what's up, G-Dubs?" And he was like, "What? What do you?" What? He was like, "Didn't Lynn like tell you like didn't you square that away, right? That you're gonna be George Washington." Mm-hmm. It's
life changing.
It is. I mean, I feel I've tried to share it with all my friends, basically, because I'm just like, this is really good and you should see it. I mean, not just because I'm your history friend, and I say it's really good, but like it's actually just good on its own, and it deserves to be watched and listened to, for sure.
So, what would you give it out of 10?
This is a 10 out of 10, man. Like this is an absolute masterpiece. I like. One of my best friends is telling me that somebody he knows, family, was like called it childish garbage, and I was like, she couldn't write her way out of anything. She can write her way out of a closet. It was like
I hate those people.
At least and I was like, take solace in the fact that you're intelligent enough and not arrogant enough to understand something that's great. Like to appreciate something that's culturally significant. Like there's nothing you can say that will take away from the fact of how much of a phenomenon this show has been.
Yeah.
And will continue to be, for sure. So.
Yeah. So I'll give it a 10 out of 10 too. Yeah.
Yeah. It's pretty amazing.
There's nothing I can point to that I don't like about it, or that's a clear flaw, you know.
Yeah, me neither. So with the Disney Plus version, there's one flaw, but it's not actually a flaw because it's nice that they're making it more accessible for as many people as possible. And that's the censoring. I understand that you got to do it. So I think the one F word that is accepted or is like included is you see, that was my wife you decided to I think they include that because it rhymes with the previous line. I'm a man who is down on my luck. You see, that was my wife you decided to So he doesn't actually say it, but it's very heavily implied. I think that's the one that counts towards the PG-13. And then all the other ones are... I think so. All the other ones are edited out, and "Sit down, John, you fat mother" was bleeped out in the original recording, anyways. So, it's because it's comedic. So,
all right.
That's not really that much of a complaint. You know, it's like whatever. It's still on the OBC, and the recording that you can buy.
Look, it doesn't get much. It doesn't get much better than this. You know, like now I feel like it can't. There's nothing will ever compare to it, so I'll just stop here. No more.
No more Broadway for me.
Yeah.
No more sex for me, son.
Yeah.
Or another brew for the revolution.
Yeah.
There's all kinds of things I was thinking about this whole time. There's a lot of like cool little factoids, or like actually the history was like this, but he decided to do this but I didn't want to like continue doing that. There's all kinds of cool information. The history itself is fascinating. So if you're like me, then you've probably, if you've seen it already, which I'm shocked if you haven't, you've probably already gone down a rabbit trail and looking up all these people that are in this. Do yourself a favor if you haven't done that yet. Just go do it. Find time to go do it. It's the founding of our country is miraculous that it even happened. It was kind of a snowball's chance in hell, and yet the people that were involved somehow made it happen. And there's a reason that they're honored as our founding fathers. They're not perfect people by any means, but greatness doesn't always have to be from greatness is through the masses. It doesn't have to be from perfect people. Like none of we're not perfect people. Me and you aren't. Mm-hmm. We're not great, but but we're people, and that's why we can relate to it. And that's it. I'm out.
All right. Well, until next time. Hamilton 2, when that comes out. Hamilton
2, the return of the ghost of Hamilton. Maybe they'll make a musical on Amistad. That would be kind of sad, but also
okay.
kind of cool too. Yeah. You can address the slavery issue there too.
Yeah. Well, you could watch 12 Years a Slave.
I still need to do that. You've said that it's extremely good.
We'll review it at some point, but I think there is a theater production of it too.
Oh, okay. You say we'll probably review that at some point. All right. Anyway.
Okay. Wait. Bring it back.
Whoa.
Wait,
Time out. Rewind.
What video would you recommend that viewers check out?
I would recommend you check out the Epic Rap Battles of History with Mitt Romney and Barack Obama.
Oh.
Go see some political debates.
Not as fun side of politics, huh?
Not a fun. No.
It's not as beautiful coming together story.
It's not. It's not as beautiful coming together story. It's but it sort of fits with the theme. You get your rap battles. So what I didn't mention before is that actually on the Hamilton mixtape, which is a CD that was released afterwards, that Cabinet Battle 3, the demo of that is on that. So if you wanted to listen to what he had in mind, you can do so.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Yeah.